Welcome to another edition of Coffee, Eggs and Inspiration. In this edition, I've put together a show reel, a playlist, if you like. What do you get if you've put together two best-selling authors, the principal of the Brit School, a social entrepreneur, and a trans-Pacific Ocean rower? You're about to find out. Stay with me.
The benefit, the joy, the gift that Be More Pirate gives me still and other people is in simplest terms that ability to speak your mind. Right. So what happened? So in the Pirate Code 2.0, I was putting forward, just trying to call bullshit on the things that need calling bullshit on, like their business plans. Because it's got some numbers on it, everyone thinks, right, okay, that's what's going to happen. And we can fall into a trap of thinking change innovation is about starting something, but usually it's about stopping something, and that's much harder to do.
This week is no different. I'm joined by Stuart, the principal of the Brit School. I'm super excited by this.
Oh, thanks, Craig.
Absolutely.
I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you for coming.
I think people kind of go, wow, this isn't like a school. It's like a place of work. I call it an adventurous playground. And in a playground, you need to be safe. So we're safe, and the kids feel protected, and they feel that there is boundaries. But within that, they're allowed to play. And without play, no art happens. And without play, you don't discover yourself. We are born to play. And schools, I think, unfortunately, are repressing play because they're driven by different metrics or different reasons to be. Our existence is to give young people the ability to express themselves and be themselves. So you take away bells and everything is possible. So a bell is a really restrictive thing. So it's the start of school. You're not at school. It's like a Victorian kind of like foghorn going over the town. And not having a bell is just because we can all read the time. We can get to work on time. We can run a rehearsal over if necessary. So there's a discipline required when you don't have some of those structures, right. Which I think I was talking to a young actor yesterday, and she's 14, and she's like, I can't believe the independence I'm given here, but the trust. YouTube Music TV station is just one of the most exciting classrooms in the country. It just happens to be a TV studio where people are learning to make TV, they're learning to make film, they're learning to make promo, they're learning to make content. That it's free is the thing. A lot of people don't know that, everyone at home. It is free. No one pays to go there. It's not a school for the elite. It's not a school for those that can afford. There are no fees. It's a state school. But for instance, if we look at the marketplace of employment, okay, I'm worried about that. I went to a really lovely function not so long ago where a head teacher was quite rightly applauded for his amazing work. He was retiring and every child was going to university from his school. And I was like, I'm not so sure about that. Yeah. The world of work, when you're 14 to 18 is the second stage of the neurology. It's the most exciting time for the brain because you're working out who you are. You can make fundamental changes there. So I think that's a very exciting time to liberate that brain rather than to crush it, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I think, if you think about that university travel, it works for loads of kids. Yeah. But actually, some of them want to find work. Some of them want to go on adventures. They don't. I'm really proud the school has a different paths. Yeah, and that should be seen as powerful. Yeah. Like the young child who wants to go and be a dancer or a filmmaker at 18 should be celebrated in the same way as a child who wants to go to Oxbridge. Absolutely. They're both very worthwhile. I know what employment want is they want creative young people, yep. They want flexible young people, and they want people with confidence and communication skills. They're the things. They don't necessarily want a degree because that only proves that you've got a degree, which is a powerful thing.
Out of interest, who was the woman that you were waiting for?
It was Adele.
It was Adele.
Yeah. It's good to catch up with her. And when I last saw her, when I'd seen her, I wasn't the head teacher. I was running the theatre department, sort of artistic side of the school, and she goes, "Oh, look at you now!" And I went, "Yeah, look at you now." And then she went on to sing "When We Were Young" that night, and it was a glorious night for her. And she looks down at the Brit School students in the pit at the Brit Awards and says, "I remember when I was young." Please check that out.
Yeah.
I think the thing that really changed my life was making the decision, and I know that it's different for everybody. The barrier for me was a lot lower than someone who doesn't have my educational background, who doesn't have my parents who chose education above everything, who doesn't have the access that I've been able to get because of the places that I've worked and the experiences that I've had. But having said all of that, I think it's important to just seek to be outside of your comfort zone. I genuinely get irritated if I turn up to a networking event and I know most of the people there. Because I could have stayed home. I didn't need to be there. I could have just stayed home and slept a little bit more. But I think it's important to just be in spaces that you, or seek to be in spaces that you know will grow you, will challenge you, and will tell you what it is to be a different kind of person. Because being aware of different kinds of people is really important. And if I found actually my brother did this when we were growing up. Actually, he was the example for me. He wanted to be an investment banker, but we don't have any investment bankers in our family, so he had no idea what to do. So during his summer holidays, he would wear a suit. When he was 16, he would wear a suit and go to the city and sit in the cafes and strike up conversations with people in suits.
I want to latch on to this point around email. I find your provocation very, very stimulating because I think about this deeply. Like most people in this room, I probably get 150 emails a day. Not all of them are very relevant. And I often wonder what the world would be like without email. By the way, anyone in favor of losing email completely? No, it's 50% of the room.
There's a really interesting thing.
What if?
There's an anthropologist. He started off by studying monkeys, a guy called Robin Dunbar. Do you know Dunbar's number? Let me talk you through it. So Robin Dunbar did this really interesting piece of work where he looked at the cognitive capacity of monkeys, actually. Monkeys spend about 4 hours a day. Here we go. Monkeys spend about 4 hours a day grooming each other. So sitting 4 hours a day, this is about 40% of their waking time, 4 hours a day just picking the fleas off each other. Now, if it was related to the amount of fleas they had, then long-haired monkeys would require more grooming than short-haired monkeys, but it's the same. And he couldn't understand what was influencing it. Also, in addition, there seemed to be something where different groups of monkeys would groom more or less different numbers of monkeys. Anyway, he discovered it's directly related to the size of the brain and a specific part of the brain. But so he was really interested. So monkeys will groom about between 15, 20 monkeys. You never get a group of chimpanzees bigger than 13 males. There seemed to be something in that. He plotted it to see how many, based on brain size, how many humans would hang around with, how many that they would associate with. So grooming is a very intimate activity. And he came up with this number, 150. It was very much it was very much a thought experiment. What would that mean? He started looking for the occurrence of 150 in human civilization, and it appears everywhere. It appears in troop numbers, in military battalions going through time. It's the average village size in the Doomsday Book. It's the average tribe size in sort of ancient civilizations. It occurs time and time again. And he called this, or someone else called it, Dunbar's number. The idea that we're only able to form trusting relationships with 150 other people. That's the notion of Dunbar's number. First thing that occurs when you talk about Dunbar's number, people say, I've got 1,000 Facebook friends, or I've got 700 Facebook friends. But what he says is that you've got to be really clear. Dunbar's number is people that you would do a favor for, people that you've got some sort of skin in the game. And so I think we all know that there's certain people, if you saw them out in a bar tonight, you'd duck down and you'd try and avoid being spotted. You know, there's not always a trusting relationship. But the interesting thing is that we've created modern organizations where we breach that number, where we're expected to stay in touch with lots of people, to be in meetings with hundreds of people, and to be on email with hundreds of people. And I think what it's doing is it's creating this cognitive burden where we just feel overwhelmed. Now, Robin Dunbar said the apes were spending 40% of their time doing this. The average Brit spends about 2 days a week, so about 40% of their working time in meetings. And I think just what we've done is we've created organizations that are potentially too big for what humans can deal with. Right. So, for me, it starts becoming a really interesting exercise. Could you make meetings smaller? Could you make teams smaller? Could you stop reducing the amount of dependencies on other people? Because I think we'd find it more satisfying.
Half men, half women, and in fact, I'm not sure whether it was 12-13 split, which way it was, but 25 of us in total, and all from completely different walks of life. And that was, one of the things that I really learned from that experience was just about not judging people.
Yeah.
So I was living and breathing and supporting and being supported by people who I just would never have met in my life. I'm pretty fortunate, and
Are you still in touch with
yeah,
them?
we're still in touch. But there were some incredible stories. I mean, either you just would never have crossed paths through geography, or just because you just live in different worlds. And I think what it taught me was
Stories as in sort of helping each other, for example? Or...
yeah. So I mean, but everybody had a story. So my story was pretty
Right.
boring. I was like a 40-year-old woman getting divorced who I think they were like on the ballet angle and found that quite interesting.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of stories of drug addiction and alcoholism and being involved in gangs and homelessness
Right.
and awful bereavements as well.
Yeah.
So everybody kind of went in there with something that they were dealing with, and so that's kind of part of the show, to kind of share those stories and see how people can overcome those issues in life through physical, mental challenge.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of physical and mental challenge, I've seen a couple of the episodes. Physical bee stings, ice hole submersions, water and height challenges. I mean, take us through some of the more extreme experiences that you had.
Yeah, so I mean, like literally every day we'd have 2 or 3 of these challenges in amongst, like, I don't know, 3 different sessions of where we were physically like pushed to our limits. So they're basically trying to like physically grind you down,
Break you,
until all you've got to rely on is your mind, and then they're testing your mental resilience. So it was literally all about kind of break you down, then put you through some kind of mental test or challenge. But even the physical challenges. So we'd spend maybe a couple of hours on these awful Unimob trucks that were desperately uncomfortable. Like, we'd all joke sitting in the back that whenever we get to interrogation, it just can't be as uncomfortable as sitting in these awful vehicles. The roads are horrendous and you're being thrown around. And we'd get out of the truck at some point and we'd see the setup of what might appear to be an abseil of a 300-foot cliff face. And then you see one of the DS come down off the top of the cliff, forward facing.
Directing staff, right? One of the SAS people.
Yeah. So there are 4 guys who run the course.
Yeah.
And they're all ex-SAS or SBS. But, so that everything that you kind of thought, oh my God, I think I know what this is going to be, it would be worse than that. There'd be some kind of spin on it or twist on it. So the ladder scene that we had to do, where we had to walk across 2 ladders slung together across a kind of 30-foot ravine, had this waterfall crashing down. It was called the Devil's Throat.
God.
And it was like such a fitting name for it. But not only did we have to walk across this ladder, we then had to squat in the middle, like bum to heels, and then get back up again and complete it.
And you're not good with heights, right?
I think
you're probably better now.
I think I'm a lot better now. I haven't since then really put it to the test.
Yeah.
But I think that kind of flushed out a lot of my height demons.
I would hate the regret of our generation to be that we went through this moment of great fragility and didn't take the greatest risks of our lives. As we entered the 21st century, it was widely heralded that creativity is the number one skill that we all need, right? But as I look around me, or more importantly, as I think to the young people who my work has mainly been dedicated to, or even my children, I don't think they see a world which rewards creativity. I think they see a world which rewards conformity.